Okay. Dualities at the end of the spectrum. The simplest and perhaps earliest understanding is to divide the world you observe into dualities, juxtaposition one against another, and much of our worldview is fashioned after this either or bilateral perspective. It is useful. Compare the sharp contrast of one distinct entity against what appears to be its opposite. But if you dive deeper, step back, contemplate longer, the clarity of the contrast fades and you develop a slow appreciation of the minute differences that gradually shift from one end to the other. And sometimes the line that connects these opposites loops around and comes back upon itself, such that it is no longer possible to ascertain where each end was. When does the dark of night change to the brightness of day? Is there a point at which it is one and not the other? When does shivering turn to sweating? When does earth energy become heavenly energy? I occasionally joke that when I was a child, there were only 8 colors. That was how many crayons we got in the Crayola box. 8 primary colors, each with a name of 3 to 6 letters. My children had a big box with 64 crayons. The grandchildren live in a world with a digital palette of thousands of colors, and the ones with names often have 3 or 4 syllables. I'm not sure which primary family many of them even belong to. Not too long ago, the word spectrum became common in describing children with autism or forms of mental and emotional development that did not fit into any pattern that was expected. An advantage of this perspective is that normal became a much broader category with many understandable gradations. More recently, a movement has become public that places human gender and sexuality onto a similar spectrum, where male and female are amorphous concepts. Yet, androgyny has been a human reality since earliest times. Societies weren't stable or sophisticated enough, and perhaps still aren't, to accept the uncertainty that comes from fluidity in gender identification, sexual orientation, or practices. Dualities are really just a simplification of the spectrums in our lives.